Dear Rebecca, we are writing to inform you you've been unsuccessful in... Ah, Hi guys, welcome to Talk and Chalk. I'm Beck. I'm an assistant principal in Southwest Sydney, and if you are brand new to watching these videos, I'm very happy to have you joining me. If you are someone who's been following me on Facebook, you would have seen that I had some issues with posting to groups recently, and I'd like to thank you for continuing to watch videos using YouTube, even though that's been happening, but I'm in the all clear now and posting is happening again. For those that are new, all my links and everything are below, Twitter, whatnot. Click to subscribe. Hopefully by the end of this video might help you gain a bit of perspective on how I present information. It's really just me kind of rambling on, which is what I'm going to do tonight. I have made a couple of videos recently, one on writing job applications and one on my tips for interviews. If you haven't seen them, I'll put them in the description below as well. But I think we need to follow on from what happens after that. So recently I've had a fair few people message me to say thank you for the videos that I did, that they found them very helpful, but unfortunately they weren't successful either in getting to interview or weren't successful at interview, which is a shame. It happens. It's a very competitive market out there, especially for classroom teacher positions because there's so many graduates coming out. It's very competitive for executive positions as well, especially in Sydney. So following on from that, let's have a look at, I guess, what happens after that process, what you can do after that process, and I guess really the headspace that you might be in and how you continue doing it. Because I've said before, I have aspirations to be a principal one day. I don't hide that fact. I'm not trying to actively, leave my current school. I love my current school, but if a job opportunity arises that I think suits me, I'm definitely going to go for it. So I guess we kind of need to have in place what we do with ourselves when we don't succeed or achieve the goals that we're aspiring towards. And for some of you watching, you might just be looking for permanency. Some of you might be looking for, AP positions or senior executive positions, or whatever it is that you might be trying to do. So we're taking into account that for this particular video, you've been told that you've been unsuccessful. What do we do from there? So I'm going to tell you what I do. So whether it's not being successful at interview or not being successful in even getting to interview, I always call and get feedback. So if it's for just my CV, call, make an appointment with the panel convener, which is usually the principal, and just ask for feedback on this. And you really should not be worried about doing this. They're not going to tear shreds off you. They're not going to tell you that you suck or that you crap or that it was terribly written. I've never ever come across a panel convener that's been like that. And they shouldn't be like that. It's meant to be productive and it's meant to be suitable to what you are actually writing about. So talking about specifically the criteria that was in the job application. So when they talk to you, they'll just give you points that came from the panel. It might not be from themselves. It could be from other people that were on the panel. They'll have their notes ready to go. And they'll tell you things that were good about your application and areas that didn't quite match up with the people that actually made it to interview. This does not mean that you are bad. This does not mean that you cannot do the job. It just means that you didn't portray yourself as well on paper as the people that made it to interview. And take into account the things that they tell you. Remember though, this isn't gospel, the things that they tell you. And this is the part where it can get very, very frustrating, is that sometimes the feedback you get from one panel could be completely different from the feedback that you'll get from another panel. So always take it with a grain of salt. Try and play devil's advocate with the information that you hear. Note it all down, keep it in mind, but don't go back and change your entire CV to necessarily fit that model. You still want your CV to be an accurate reflection of you. You want it to read like you. And if you feel that that document, that bit of paper accurately reflects you, that it definitely meets the criteria that has been set out in the job application, then just refine and tweak as needed. If they say something like, you used a dodgy font, it was too big or it was too long or it was too short, those are basic structural things that you can take into account and modify that. When we're talking about content, if they've said things, that you don't necessarily agree with, talk to your own principal, talk to your referees and see what they feel about your CV. They might, take that information on board and go, well, that's not really how you are as a practitioner. Maybe that wasn't the right setting for you. Excuse me. And when you get that negative feedback, it's really, really hard not to just chip away at yourself and think, I feel like crap. I spent so many hours on this. I devoted myself to this. I really feel like I would have been perfect in that job. You may have been. It may have just come down to yours was really close to someone else's and the other one just had that little bit more that got them to interview. So it doesn't necessarily mean you are bad at that or that you couldn't perfectly convey yourself on paper. There might have just been someone that could do it a bit better. Sometimes the line really is that thin, especially when there are lots of applicants putting in applications for one job. Even when you go to interview and you get that feedback as well, you can still get feedback on your CV. So there might have been an area in your CV that they thought could have been tweaked as well, even though you did get to interview. And obviously the feedback that you're going to get is going to be on your interview techniques, how well you answered questions, and that's going to be a totally separate thing to what your written application is. Sometimes the way you present at interview might not match how you presented yourself on paper, and that might have sat uneasy with the panel. You might have, run too long for, one question and then not married it up with another one. So when you get that feedback, that's kind of a different line there. But again, that mental process that you go through when you get that feedback, it does not mean you are bad. It does not mean that you can't do the job. It just means that you need to practice making sure that people understand who you are, what you do, and what you're about. And the hardest part about that is picking yourself back up again. Picking yourself back up again and going, okay, I can do this all again. I can apply for another one again. I can put myself out there again, because that's what it feels like. It feels like you're putting yourself out there to be judged by this panel of people that are going to judge you based on this bit of paper that doesn't accurately show everything that you are about being a teacher. You might have been someone that's been teaching for 20 years, on and off, temporary, part-time, whatever, having kids in between, and this is the first time that you're applying for a job. This process wasn't around when I started teaching. There's temporary contracts, you go in, numbers were done, the magical number system where your number comes up and then you get appointed. That's how it was working back then. No one applied for jobs. We didn't have CVs like that. The first CV I wrote was when I first went for an AP position. It's crazy. And my first AP application was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Thankfully, though, the principal at the school, it was Junee Public School. I don't know if she's still principal there at the moment, but the woman was absolutely lovely. When I look back on it now, I would probably laugh at it if I do that now. But she called me and she thanked me for my application. She spoke about the positive points on there and she told me how I could elaborate on what I was doing and things that I might have been missing. It was quite obvious that I was new to it. She asked me if it was the first one I had ever submitted, and I said yes. She didn't patronize me or anything like that, and she wished me well for the future. And applications down the line, I eventually became an AP. So it's not an all bad process. It's good to kind of get feedback and reflect on those things that we're doing, but that mental block that you get, and there are some people out there that just apply again and again and again and again and again and again and again, and we just keep going. The ability to be able to take on feedback that feels negative, even though it's not. We've got to make that distinction between critical feedback and negative feedback. So, we're looking at that critical feedback that is something that you can take away, reflect on, and put it into practice, put it into making some modifications to what you're doing. And you still choose that. Like I said, don't take all of that feedback that you'll get as gospel, because I've had applications that have got me to interview before, and then the exact same application, or not exact same, almost the exact same criteria with the same dot points and everything for another job, my referees didn't even get called. So either. It's a good representation really of the fact that our schools are different, they have different needs, they have different dynamics. So sometimes you'll have those two CVs with the exact same experience of the two different people, but they're using different language and they present themselves differently. And it really could just be about, the vibe. It's about the vibe. If you've ever watched The Castle, that's my favorite part. I love it. It's the vibe. And you do get that vibe from people, especially at interview. Interview is a great place where you can really kind of see if you're going to connect with someone, what their mannerisms are like. I'm big and I move around. You see that all the time, sort of a thing. That's not going to work well in a team of people that don't respond well to someone constantly in their face doing this, which is what I don't literally do that all the time. That's just me. I'm a big personality. So, and I know that. So, if my dynamic is not going to suit well with the school, that's their choice to make. They have the right to make that decision and go, she's not going to fit in well with the team. This person, though, even though they've got the same experience, we really think that personality or that dynamic really fits with us best. And that doesn't mean I go away and change who I am. I am who I am. I'm not going to change that. The right school is out there. The right position is out there. And you guys need to, try and get into that headset as well. If you're getting feedback, and it just feels like a big barrage of negativity, try and step back from that and see the information for what it is and see the realism of it for what it is. When that panel sit down, they really need to think who will be the best fit for our school. It does not mean you are the wrong fit. You just might not be the best fit for that school. There might be someone out there that is the better fit than you. So you're not walking away from it going, they think poorly of me, because that may not be the case. It just might come in second. Sometimes second's the best. I know, it's a bit trippy and I'm kind of all over the place. But this is the time of year too when I think a lot of people are rushing to get things done. It's the end of the year. Keep in mind, guys, term 1, there's always a flooding of openings, especially if you're looking for senior executive. People take leave at different times. They take their long service leave. They retire at different times. Term 1 and 4 are always the busiest, and term 4 just feels so much more stressful to do it because we've got so much going on. We've got reports, we've got end of year activities, we've got, performances and whatnot, and this, that, and the other. And it's just so much more stressful to do that. Keep in mind, this is not the only time you will go for a job. This is not the only time you'll write an application. Unless you are absolutely dead set that you are stuck in the spot you're going to be in for the rest of your life and that's the one last thing that you want to do, then, I guess that's the place that that you're at. I'm not. I know that down the future, I will get a DP position. I know that down the future, there'll be a point where I want to go for a principal position. I don't know if I want to go further than that yet. It depends on how my experiences go. But I'm very sure there's going to be a point in my life where I go, I might want to try even higher. Never know. I'm not closed off to the idea. So I know that this particular practice is going to be an ongoing thing for me. And if I make it too stressful for myself, I'm never going to get there. If it's always going to be in the too hard basket, I'm never going to get there. And you're going to be the same. If you're going for those classroom teacher positions, AP positions or whatever, and it's just constant negativity and it's constant stress, you're never going to get there. You're never going to be able to keep going on with that cycle of where you want to be. Because even if you've decided you just want to be a teacher or an AP for the rest of your life, you might not want to be in that school. You might move house. You might want to get something closer to home. You might want to get something further away from home. There could be a school that just has this amazing program that you want to learn about and you want to go there. You never know. So I rambled on for a fair bit. I know I haven't really given, any specific pointers about taking on this type of feedback, but just make sure that you're asking the questions, listening to it, making notes, adapting where you want to adapt, where you feel that you can adapt. Check in with your referees, see how they think your application reflects you, see if they've got any advice around it. Maybe sometimes it's good to get a third party who's completely not connected to your application or to your school or to your position, just give it a look, see how they feel it reads. Maybe even if it's someone not even in education. If you've got a friend or a relative or something that's just, that's a good reader, that's an interested, participant, an interested friend that might be able to help you read your applications. If you've gone to interview and you've got negative feedback about your interview, practice your interview skills. Ask your executive team if they'll do a mock interview with you. If you can do a mock panel together. We've done that before. And it's always a good way to sometimes to just get those jitters out before you get to interview. Get out the dodgy answers and the tongue-tiedness sometimes that we get or stage fright that we get. Do a mock interview. And it can just be random questions. Sometimes it's just about being in front of people and being able to speak clearly and efficiently when you're in an interview setting. So on that note, Thank you for watching. Thank you to all the people that have continued to subscribe. I'm 920 something or other subscribers now, so I've had suggestions that maybe I should do something for 1,000. I'd love it if it got to 1,000 before Christmas, and maybe I could do a giveaway. I don't know what I'd do. If you've got an idea on what I could do, pop it in the comments below or send me a message. Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest links and everything are all below. They're all education related. It's not me randomly posting personal stuff, and I do not spam. I do not sell anything. This is just me sharing tips and advice, and I hope you guys find it useful. If you haven't subscribed and you can't see the button, you can hover on the link that I'm going to put down here. And I think what I will do is I'll put just another random video that's not related to interviews or job applications, just so you can see what else I've got on there. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.